Jury selection is set to begin tomorrow in what's being called one of the most racially divided trials in recent history. Florida neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman, who is Hispanic, will stand trial in the shooting death of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, who is black. His attorneys will attempt to prove that Zimmerman shot the teenager in self-defense during a fight. Zimmerman is charged with second-degree murder. If convicted, he faces life in prison. Well, the case has made headlines, national headlines, from the very beginning, stirring up public outrage over its racial aspects.
And it could have an impact across the entire nation. Joining us now to discuss the case is criminal defense attorney Anna Young. Yana, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Bridget.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
As we mentioned, this could have implications across the country. Why is this so important? And why is this particular phase, the jury selection, so important in this case?
Well, this is going to be such an exciting trial because with Jodi Arias, we heard about sex, lies, and videotape, and Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman, is about race, gun laws, and self-defense. The reason why jury selection is going to be so important is because the race issue has been so prevalent, because what really the prosecution is saying is that there was no reason as to why George Zimmerman targeted Trayvon Martin when he did. They're going to say he was not acting suspiciously, he wasn't doing anything wrong. They're going to say that George Zimmerman looked at him as a young African-American boy with a hoodie on and who was just minding his own business, and the only reason why George Zimmerman went up to him was because he was African-American. And I think that's why it's going to be so important and why the country is essentially divided on this topic as to, is race really the reason as to why George Zimmerman targeted Trayvon Martin? And I think that the defense is going to have to explain that. They're going to have to explain that come the jury trial.
Is this trial and the fact that it's going to be nationally televised good or bad for this country?
Well, I think it's going to be good and bad. I think it's going to spark a lot of debate as to whether this is a race issue, and it's also going to spark a debate as to gun laws. Because if you think about it, George Zimmerman had a concealed weapons permit. He had a 9mm at his right hip. And what happened was during the struggle, obviously, as we know, he shot Trayvon Martin. So the issue, of course, is going to be, well, had he not had the gun, would this have happened? And of course, the flip side of that argument is, well, had he not had this gun, what could have happened? Was he really using self-defense in defending himself? If Trayvon Martin really did take his head and bash it against the concrete and basically pin him down to the point where he had no other recourse.
There's been so much evidence that both sides have wanted to get in and or stay out of this trial. What are some of the key things that you think the judge is going to have to look at, because there's still some decisions to be made before a jury even looks at this,
right,
as far as some of that key evidence?
That's an excellent question. I think the most important thing is the voice analysis regarding the 911 tape, because the 911 tape is very telling. Of course, it's extremely prejudicial in the sense that you hear everything. You hear someone yelling, "Help, help," at least 14 times. Now, the prosecution is saying, we have experts to say that the voice on that tape is Trayvon Martin. And of course, the defense is saying, no, we have experts to say it's inconclusive. The judge has not made a decision as to whether the prosecution is going to be allowed to introduce their experts to say that this is Trayvon. The reason why this is so important is because it goes to the crux of self-defense. If it is in fact Trayvon, then George Zimmerman's claim of self-defense is not there, right? Because why else would he be yelling for help? But if it doesn't, and if it is George Zimmerman yelling for help, then it bolsters his contention that it was self-defense. So that's going to be a main issue, I think, that's going to come up.
Well, thank you so much for coming down. You seem like you really know the case.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.